you're coming home to the light in your eyes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Crescendo Way. I'm very pleased to have today's guest with us. It's been a long time coming. We've got a lot of questions to start with, so please let me introduce to you Marine CEO, Mr. James Leary.
Great, thanks, Adam. Thank you.
James, thanks very much for joining us. I know you're a busy man. You've got a lot going on at the moment, so I really do appreciate you taking the time out to discuss all things marine today with us. So thank you for joining me.
No problem at all.
I'd like to start, first of all, with Neil Young, when Neil announced that he was going to be leaving the club. How quickly did that come about? Was that something that you were aware of was coming? And Jimmy Holmes was a very quick replacement. Would you guide us through how all this came about?
Yeah, so it did happen quite quickly in terms of Neil, to be honest. There was a couple of times, I guess, during last season that, I did wonder, how long he would want to stay in that role at the club for. But, I think it was just after the season finished, and I think he just sat down with us and basically said he just felt that really it was just time for a change, really. Obviously, he's done 8 years. I know firsthand how much work Neil has put in every single day over the last 8 years. He's got a full-time job, family, and he was dedicating hours and hours and hours every day of his time towards the football club. And I think it just got to the stage that he just felt, it was time for a change, and it'd been a long time. So, when he told us of that, and we sat down with him, I think it was clear there was no change in his mind. It was his mind was made up, really, and then it was about what happens next. So, we had a great working relationship, Neil, over the 8 years. Since when I got more involved in the club, I think it was 2019, he was already there as manager. So it's literally been every day speaking to him. I spent a lot of time with him. He's become a good friend. I hope I'm still in touch with him in 20, 30 years. It's that closer relationship, I guess. So it was really, really sad to see him go. And obviously then, a bit of a strange feeling, really, when he's been there for so long. We've had so much success over that period under him, to then look to get into a new era without Youngie, and then plan for it.
Well, Jimmy comes to us from Macclesfield. It seems to be an almost seamless integration into the role. How long have you known Jimmy? How did Jimmy's appointment come about?
How long have I known Jimmy? The first time I spoke to Jimmy was when Macclesfield nicked Neil Kenji off us after the Workington game, or after that playoff win. I remember literally within days of the run, well, there's a run final when Neil Young was speaking to Neil Kenji about basically an extension. It was clear there was interest from somebody else. Pretty soon after that, Jimmy's on the phone, and they're interested in him. They want to take him. And I'll be honest with you, we built a great relationship from that moment. So that was probably 2021, 2022, was it? I've spoken to him every single week for hours. Since that moment, I felt, even though they took one of our best players at the time, especially in the backdrop of obviously that hat trick he scored at Workington, it was a bit of a wounder. The way he dealt with the situation was very professional. And what's been clear over speaking to him so much over the last 5, 6 years is how dedicated he is to the football clubs he's been at, to how much knowledge he's got, to how well respected he is by clubs right across the pyramid, all levels. He's always on his phone. He basically wakes up in the morning and goes to bed, and all he does all day is live and breathe his role in football. So I always thought if there was ever a chance of getting him to the football club, then it would be an absolute no-brainer. And obviously then when Neil said that he wanted to step down, we looked at the structure of the football club that we've created since Neil's gone to director of football role, with obviously Bobby as manager, and Neil Young as director of football. And I felt I didn't want, I think that works for Marine Football Club. I didn't want to change it. So we wanted a new director of football. And I just felt that with the knowledge he's got, there aren't many Jimmy Holmeses around. And I just felt that for the continuity of the football club, the stability of getting someone else in quickly, who I think would have been the outstanding candidate had we have put it to, a full interview process, was a no-brainer. And I think, it was important in terms of continuity and stability that we also, understood in terms of why we've achieved so much and the way we've played as a football club, the way we've recruited. And it was important that somebody come in and really understands that, understands how with one of the smaller budgets in the league, how we can still be competitive. And I felt Jimmy fitted that mold perfectly. And if you look at the signings that he's made since he's joined. Isaac Abankwah, solid right back. I think, even in the pre-season games, everyone's seen that. Jack Doyle, experienced left back. Ben Darby, can run and run and run in midfield. I think everyone who's a Marine fan who's seen us for the last 5, 6 years would look at them three signings and go, I get it. It's exactly that they're all Marine players. So I felt, it was important to move quickly. Number one, to keep that stability and that continuity. We also had, still a few players to recruit in a short space of time before we got into pre-season. So I didn't want to mess about. And I just felt that from the experience I've had of knowing Jimmy really well over the last 5 years, it was an absolute no-brainer, and he'd be the absolute perfect man for the job. So, he came to meet, my dad, Dave Macmillan, and myself, and went through it all, and yeah, it's been a seamless transition so far, and he's really excited and enjoying the role.
And of course, the appointment of Jimmy and the players who've come in that you've mentioned have not been the only incomings in what has been a summer of change for Marine. Jamie Carragher has come in as well in an advisory role. Can you expand on what the advisory role is and what is the extent of Jamie Carragher's involvement with Marine?
Yeah, so the Jamie thing came about. Obviously we had a devastating end to the season with the Wealdstone game, and I was sat there and I was looking at how much we lost out at from getting, in my opinion, what was really unlucky, and without going over all grounds and not getting that penalty, I felt we were really hard done by. So I thought, out of the bad situation or the unlucky situation, what can we do that makes a really positive step forward in terms of the football club. And it just came into my mind. I thought, if I can get Jamie in with his experience on the football side, in terms of, his following, if we can get him on board, it'd be a massive asset to the football club in terms of his reputation. So I basically met him at the Park Hotel. We went through over a couple of hours the plans for the football club, what we were trying to do. I think in that meeting, it was really obvious that he's really fond of the football club. We all know that he's been to quite a few games over the last 4 or 5 years, probably longer. He's local, and he wanted to get involved. He said he wanted to help, and he would help in any way he could. So we put a bit of a plan together, and everything that he does, in terms of helping us attract sponsors through his name. He'll come to meetings if we ask him to discuss and go through things over it. On the social media side, I mean, I saw last night he reposted the James Potter announcement, and straight away, the number of impressions just shoots up massively. So from the awareness, the social media side of it, it's massive as well. I've got a fundraising scheme in mind that I want them to get involved with and help drive forward, which is all aimed towards the new stadium, things like sportsman's dinners. So just having him involved in the club, and regular dialogue with him, he knows exactly where we're up to. He contributes as much as he can, with obviously the parameters that he's got of his other commitments with Sky, etc. But I think it's just a really good addition to the football club. I think from a profile perspective, it helps us, and there's different things that we've agreed that he's going to help us with over the next couple of years. And it's been great working with him over the last couple of months, or however long it's been since we announced it, and I look forward to carry on working with him over the coming years.
That's fantastic. Was Jamie, given all the reasons that you've just listed, involved at all with Alf Mango? getting involved now and coming in as a non-executive director?
Not, no, not at all. That was completely different. So the non-exec director thing, that's so we basically obviously got a structure where we're fan owned. That's just the limitations of, well, I say the limitations. It's a positive in a lot of ways, but it has limitations in terms of, we can't go out like some clubs can and say, give us 2 million and you can own the football club. That's not how the football club's structured as it stands now. But I'm also aware that somehow we need to get more income into the football club so we can help to compete and ultimately give Bobby the best budget he can to help the club grow. So, it was a concept I came up with that I thought we've got 8 people on the board. So the 8 people on the board are all volunteers who have got a specific role. So obviously my role, but then you've got a commercial director, operations director, finance director, secretary, and so on. So we've got 8 operational people doing the day to day, if you like. So there's four board spaces available for potentially for new people to come in. So I just thought it could be a really good way of trying to bring new income into the football club, where we bring in people who might be businessmen, people might have their own company, people might be interested in putting a sponsorship deal and also get involved in the football club and helping drive the football club forward strategically over the next few years, with all we've got with the new stadium, etc. So it was a concept that, and I'd met Alf Mangor last season. He came to a game and he was a great guy, absolutely brilliant guy. He's going to come a few times this year, and the more people meet him, honestly, they'll see. He's started a company from scratch. It's now a 40 restaurant business. He's a really enthusiastic guy. Um, so I used him as the guinea pig for the non-exec director concept, which he really liked, and signed up. So in terms of him, there's going to be branding around the stadium, in pretty much every area. As you go into the stadium through the car park, there'll be branding for AMJ. There'll be branding all down the Rossett Road side of the ground. There'll be branding in the corner of the Jubilee as well. There's a commercial aspect to it, which is great for us, and also the strategic that he can come on the board with a completely fresh way of thinking. He knows what we're trying to achieve. He's got some ideas of things we can do to help grow us as a football club, and he's a perfect person what I was looking for. So, we're speaking to other people at the moment, a couple of people in the US, a Dutch party. And the reality is, you've got to kiss a few frogs sometimes in these things. Some people aren't, sometimes it's not right for people. Sometimes it is, and you just need to keep going until you do find the people that want to come on board and fit what we're trying to do. There's some people that, for example, their first question is, how many shares do we get? What percentage of the company do we get, and how many shares? And for me, I always think it's a bit of a, I mean, you look at football in general, and I mean, I did some work a few weeks ago, and in the last 20 years, there's been, I think, about 275 investors into UK football. And of them 275 investors, only five have made a profit. And of people who are still at the clubs, there's another five that if they sold the club today, they would make a profit. So out of 275 investors, you've only got 10 people there, really, which is a really, really low percentage. So when people say to me, how much percentage do I get? I say, what do you want it for? What is your goal? What's your ambition? Because if it's to basically make a return,
Mm.
don't invest in a football club. If you're happy to come in, spend money, and you lose it, that unless there's some exceptional circumstances, that's what's going to happen. So it doesn't matter whether you've got one share or 1,000 shares, because you're still going to lose cash. So why go to another club at National League level and lose £200,000 of cash a year when, for example, you can come to us, granted you won't get shares, but put in a much lesser amount and still get involved in the strategy and taking the football club forward. So yeah, so that's basically the idea behind it. So Alf Mango was it wasn't a Jamie thing. It was just this new concept we've come up with where we've got him signed up. Um, we've got another non-exec director who's going to get announced, I think, on Thursday, who again is a great
Mhm.
guy. And then after that, I'm looking and hoping to finalise another two, hopefully over the next few weeks. But as I say, we'll just see how the conversations develop, and if we can get extra income from it, which is what my aim is, as well as getting really good new minds involved with the football club, then great. But really, it comes down to, we've got parameters at the moment of what I can do and what I can't do, and at the moment, because we're a fan-owned club, is just an idea, really, as I say, to try and bring in new income, because we're restricted in that we can't go and get loads of as say, an individual investor.
Of course, and speaking of investment and sponsorship, I'd just like to take this moment as well to thank our sponsor, GW Services UK Limited, for all your industrial boiler and maintenance needs. They're involved with steam boiler solutions and repairs. They're based in Liverpool. Please visit their website, gwservicesuk.com. Just going back to Alf and what he brings with him, as you were saying, 40 restaurants. His hospitality is his background. Will he be looking to sort of drive the direction of the club in terms of what it can offer in terms of hospitality going forward and using his experiences?
It's the answer is yeah, we're talking to him about that at the moment. We basically at the moment we're in a position where the bars they could be doing better, if I'm completely honest, in terms of from a financial perspective. Um, so yeah, at the moment he's reviewing everything and looking at it, and he's going to give his opinion pretty soon in terms of what he thinks we need to do. So yeah, it's all it's positive. He will have an impact. I saw some comments about because he's getting involved, will there be chips and things like that. So we'll just keep talking to him and see where we end up.
And of course, that leads us then on as well to the success of the 500 Club. That's had a great response. What are sort of the numbers that you've seen on that, if you can disclose it, and how much success has that brought in? And has that brought as well other unexpected opportunities in terms of commercial revenue streams?
Yeah, it's been brilliant. I mean, I think there's about 150 in round numbers is I think is where it finished, which is absolutely brilliant. It's a completely new income stream into the football club. We're trying to do everything we can to be as competitive as we can, and that's where, the booster budget, which again this season raised almost 20 grand, which is fantastic. The virtual tickets, which have raised about £10,000 from all supporters in the US, in Norway, in Italy, in Australia, and France, and somewhere else. That's raised another £10,000. The 500 Club is an idea of Darren Court, who's been brilliant since he came in. He's got plenty of new ideas. He's put on lots of different events that have raised good profits in terms of ticket sales, but also in terms of bar revenue as well. And this 500 Club's another idea where it's raised a lot of money. And hopefully, people who have paid the money to take part in it will keep repeating and doing that, and we can keep trying to grow that over the next few years. So yeah, it's massive. Thanks to everybody who has contributed, whether it's the booster budget, whether it's a virtual tickets, whether it's a 500 Club, whether it's buying a season ticket, whether it's coming to the bar and bistro for foods or a drink, whatever it is, because ultimately it all comes back into the same pot. I say we're fan owned. Every bit of revenue goes into the playing squad. Um, every one of us is volunteers, and we're just trying to do the best to keep growing the football club. And it's with all the support that we've got, and that growth of support. I still can't believe when you sat down and on a match day and you're looking around, and the amount of new fans all the time that are continually coming to the football club, are continually impressed by it. It's been really, really positive, and the more we can keep that going and foster that, the better.
Speaking of the new fans and new faces that come in, last season the away kit, which was voted for by the fans, became the best-selling shirt out of the club shop and by some considerable distance. The same was applied as well with the home shirt, and that has now sold out. Will there be new stock coming in? And what were your thoughts on the kit and the success of the sales of both the home and away?
It's massive. It's frustrating. I know Rob, from a numbers perspective on the kit ordering, he's done his best to try and work out how many we're going to sell. Last year we did that fans choice for the first time, and we sold an unbelievable amount of away tops. So that was hard to, even though we were hoping it would sell a bit more than normal because the fans picked it, the amount, the quantity we sold was just incredible. There's no way we could have forecasted it. And then this year the whites done even better. So, it's been really positive. I think it's a good piece of fan engagement. Everyone's been really positive about the kits in terms of the look, the feel, the players also. The players really, really like the kits. I've heard that firsthand. So yeah, it's really good. I believe that as much as we can get fans involved in different decision making, the better ultimately, the better the fan experience is. The more people are gonna want to keep coming to the club and telling other people about the club. So yeah, the kit was a really good, or has been over the last 2 years, a really good piece of fan engagement, and yeah.
The pink training kit, sorry, has proved to be very popular as well with supporters. Will that be going on sale as well?
Yes, it will be. So that's on us as well. Again, that's something that we wanted to bring in. As last season we had a training kit, but it was navy. This season we wanted a training kit that was a little bit different. And as you said, such was the interest at the start. As soon as people saw it, we knew it'd be a big seller. So Rob's got an order with that's going to come in. I forget which date now, but it's not going to be long.
The working relationship with Maluka, then, would you say at this point it's been a great success up to now?
Brilliant, yeah, brilliant. I mean, we as a local community football club, in my view, we should try go local as much as we can, and whether that's the kit or whatever suppliers, all businesses should be trying to help each other. Neil's a perfect example. Neil from Maluka, he lives close to Marine. He's got affinity with the football club. And since he's came in, whereas we had plenty of problems in the past in terms of production and stock not arriving and issues, and it's hard sometimes to get the customer service you need. Whereas Neil, he's at the club regularly. And I'd recommend all the local football clubs. Obviously, Southport have just signed up with him to basically get in touch with him because the quality of his kits is great, and the service he has given is absolutely brilliant. He's if we sign a player late on a Friday, there's no worries about getting a kit and getting the name on all that caper by early the next morning. So yeah, he's been great. He's flexible. He's supportive. Sometimes we're not the easiest people probably to work with maybe. And are quite demanding, I guess. But he's been absolutely brilliant. And yeah, I'd recommend any football club to go with him and have a conversation with him.
I mean, certainly from an affordability standpoint as well. Our adult shirts are £40. I think the kids are less than that. Um, for you, for all the time that you've been at Marine, via your dad as well, since you were a little boy. So when you're seeing all these kids running around with replica Marine shirts, and there's a large number of kids, and that's not just on match days as well. You see people often on the commute to work wearing some sort of Marine gear, or whether they're most recently around Aintree Retail Park as well. You might see someone there, etc. What does that mean to you, given all your time and association with the club, to see where it is now and people so proudly wearing the club's crest?
It's brilliant, isn't it? It's all you can dream of really when we get an attendance of 300 and from what it was then, and we had a friendly. I can't remember, it was against one of the early ones where we had about 300 there, and you're looking around thinking, but it's empty, and then someone says to you, well, that's how it used to be every league game, and you're thinking, bloody hell, yeah, we have come on a long way. But it's great. There's so much interest in the football club. You see the passion, whether it's online and what people are commenting on when you meet people in the street and asking you questions. It's gone on to a completely different level. And I think for me now, we've got to the level we have, through Youngie, success on the field, which has just been incredible. We've obviously built the club a lot off the field in terms of trying to grow revenue, trying to do what we can to increase the budget in terms of the 3G pitch, in terms of planning for the new stadium. And I think thing for me now is how can we go to the next level? And everything we're trying to do in terms of getting the right people involved in the football club, like Jamie, like your non-exec directors, like Alf Mango, things we're trying to do in terms of the new stadium. I think people can see it, and that's the real catalyst really to helping us go again, if you like, and really push us on because the stadium does have its limitations. Obviously, you look at just the whole movement, the fact that when you play your bigger teams and you're segregated and we've got to limit them to a certain number of tickets and teams that would bring eight, 900,000 or more, and we just can't accommodate them in the layout of our ground. So we lose out a lot from its limitations, and that's what really the new stadium has got to do. It's got to knock down all them barriers and just help take us to another level.
I believe as well that the away allocation for this season, this what I'm getting told within group chat, is now going to be 600. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So the rules have basically changed. So last year we limited away clubs to 300 if it was segregated. This year it's got to be 600. So yeah, it is what it is. I mean, it'll mean that the crowds will go up, but obviously it's going to also mean that away teams will have a more noise and a bigger presence at the stadium. So, it is what it is. Obviously, we're just, it's the rules and we've just got to go along with it. But I say that the upturn is that the crowds will increase slightly from where they were. For example, Macclesfield, they will probably end up selling about, let's say, 500 tickets, maybe towards 550. I'm not sure they'll sell out, but I don't think it'll be too far away. Last year it was 300. That's it. So, yeah, there are upsides to it, but as I say, just from a noise perspective, ideally we don't want to be giving away a bit, a bigger percentage of the ground, really. But as I say, from a business perspective, I guess it helps.
In terms of all the what's been going on behind the scenes as well in the summer, Peter McCormick departed as well. He was, of course, safety officer, so he would have been, quite hands-on with the away segregation, etc. Has anyone taken up that role now as the safety officer, and what's the challenge been like for them?
He hasn't got a replacement on the board. He's I mean the expression he keeps using is he's not going anywhere in terms of
Mhm.
he's still he's been I mean he's been an absolute hero, Peter, over so many years. He's been involved with the club for I don't know how many years, is it 40 odd years or something like that. I remember his dad, his family have always called him his brothers. So Pete's Marine Mad and he always will be. He stepped down from the board, but he'll still get involved. He'll still help. He's got great relationship with the MPK9. In terms of the police as well. He's had a relationship with them. So he's still staying involved in that respect, and we'll see what happens over the next year or two, really. But he's just left stepped down from the board.
So I'm sure now we're going on to the next thing I want to ask you is what a lot of people have been tuning in for. I'm sure, whether it's Marine supporters, whether supporters of other clubs. I'm sure there's going to be journalists possibly watching. Hello, Steve Killen. I'm sure the residents of Thornton want to know what's the latest on chips? Are they happening? Are we going to get them? And where are we? And the stadium, of course. What's happening with the stadium? Where are we up to with this?
um, should I ignore the chips one or should I answer it? I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
we've got to deal with Pullman Jack. So, by the way, that was a thing that fans wanted, and that's why we went with them. And obviously, the quality in terms of what they do produce is fantastic. Obviously, there's been a few comments over chips, um, but yeah, we'll see what happens with that. So, but in terms of the stadium, we obviously it's been what 4 years now since we first started looking. Um, it feels like a lot longer, if I'm honest. There's been that many ups, downs, times when you get, a knock back from something, and then other times when something lands and opportunities land. So basically, where it's at is we're still waiting for it to go into the planning for a full plan application. Things have moved on. It's just taking a lot longer than I hoped. I hoped initially planning would be by the end of last year, and then I was hoping by the end of June. We had a meeting with a planning consultant last week on Tuesday or Wednesday, and the planning consultant estimates it's 3 months away from the full plan application. That's with what's still got to be done. We've got to have there's a three meetings with the council, and we've had two of them, so we need to have the third meeting with the council. We need to do the public consultation. There's a couple of reports that need finishing off. So just the time left to do that, then it'll go into a full planning application. So I've been told that it's 3 months. Hopefully, it won't go any further beyond that. But as I say, it's happened already that things have gone back. But I'm still very optimistic that it's going to happen. I know that people think because things went quiet, people worry about is it going to happen, is it not going to happen. As far as we're concerned, we've got a landlord that's massively, massively committed to it, and we've got an option on the land. And basically, yeah, we just need to get it into planning and then and get it built.
Fantastic. I'm sure people would much rather that, as you said, we were 3 months down the line and we have, the certainty whether it's going to happen or not. I
Yeah.
think with what you're saying as well about the logistics of segregation, stadium grading, which is, continuously changing season in, season out. I think it's fair to say this new stadium was really needed yesterday.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. I agree 100%. And that's at the end of the day, it's I say for us to really grow as a football club, that's the next logical
mm,
thing to happen because it will take us forward. All the plans we've got for the stadium. We've tweaked things since we published it last year. We've changed the size of the hotel, the gym. After conversations we've had, we've looked to put a nursery in there as well as healthcare facilities, and make it a real community space that families, everybody can use. So we've kept tweaking things, we've kept evolving things, we've kept moving forward, we've kept moving forward from a planning perspective as well. We just need to basically get the plan and submission done, and a lot of it is out of our control, and we're just waiting for things to happen behind the scenes.
going forward as well with any sort of future investment with anyone who wants to get involved with the club, what is the best way for them to get in contact with you to discuss potentially investing in Marine?
Just email me, CEO@marinefc.com. As I say, from an investment perspective, we're fan owned, so they can, there's no, they can give 50,000 and get shares back. That's not how it works. But if they email me, every single person I can have a sit down with, and we can talk about the future of the club, where we want to go, what we're trying to do, and see how it can potentially work for them.
The last I saw was that season tickets had sold 570, and I believe last year it was 620. So we are getting ever closer to matching last season's number. What have you got to say to the supporters watching this in regards to the season forthcoming?
Well, in terms of numbers, yeah, I think because obviously that number included all like the half season tickets that we sold in January. So I think if you compare where we were this time last year compared to now, it's about ballpark the same. In fact, I think we think I'm right in saying we've just overtaken where we were last year. Obviously, we'll sell more flexi tickets between now and Christmas. We've got them out now. And as I say, when it comes to December and Christmas, and hopefully, if we do okay first 3, 4 months of the season, there'll be a good demand for half season tickets as well, and that'll push it over the 620 that you mentioned last year. But in terms of the message for supporters, I think with that, I'm not putting any pressure at all on the football side. I think Bobby, uh, uh, Jimmy Holmes, they're all clear in terms of what they're trying to do. I think we think internally that we've recruited well over the summer, and we're a stronger outfit going into this season than we were last season, and that we're a stronger team starting this season than we finished last season as well in terms of personnel. So my hope is that basically, as I say, not to put too much pressure on that we finish higher than last year. And we'll see over the first few months of the season really how that takes shape, and where we can go, and what we can do. I'm excited by where we are. I know Bobby's really excited at the moment, in terms of who he's got in the building, the players he's working with. You look at, I'm not going to mention any individuals, but you look at some of the names that we have got, and it's fantastic seeing them in Marine shirts. And did I think all the players who we wanted to keep last year would stay? No, I thought there might be a few departures. Yeah, but they haven't. They're committed to the football club. They see what we're trying to do at the football club. We've complemented them by bringing in some players of real quality to the football club, and hopefully, we can really work hard and really try and improve on what we did last year and keep building as a football club.
That's brilliant. Well, James, thank you so much for joining us this evening and for all that information as well. It's a great insight to what's been going on over the summer and what to look forward to as well in the future.
Brilliant. Thanks, Adam. Thanks for your
And
time.
thank you very much, James, and thank you again to GW Services UK Limited for sponsoring this video.